Hello, Nintendo here. I'm a clinical psychologist in Las Vegas and a hardcore Nintendo fan. And today I'm going to talk about how video games help with time management. And to me, this is actually one of the most wonderful things about playing video games and adopting a video game playing habit is that it really does help me to manage my time. And I've shared in other videos how I stopped playing video games for about 2 decades, from the age of 13 till 33. And I kind of saw them as childish and sort of not really useful, just kind of a silly, childish thing. And I set them aside and I got very interested in music and, hanging out with my friends and that kind of thing. And I just stopped playing video games. And once I got into them when I was age 33, I was working on my dissertation. And what was really interesting is I didn't think, this is going to help me to get my dissertation completed, or it's going to help me with time management or anything like that. It was just this spontaneous inspiration that struck me, and I just got into playing the old Mario games again. And then, from there it just developed, and I got into the Zelda games again. I started playing all the new games, which had kind of intimidated me because they do require kind of learning some new skills, some of these challenging video games. But then once you get into it, it's just so satisfying. So the thing that's amazing about video games is that they're fun in and of themselves, but they really do also help us to develop new skills, not just in time management, but they actually develop our minds and our hand-eye coordination, our response time, our attunement to what's happening in the moment. So they sharpen us. They really sharpen our minds. And they also really do help with time management. So if you have ever played a video game, then you have probably seen the type of scene that happens when you're playing a character and you just stop playing because you need to go get a drink or go to the bathroom or something. And it's kind of funny, Nintendo's very good at this. This is why I love Nintendo. They get all the details just right. So if you leave your character will sort of start to scrape around, and he'll get bored, and he just looks really miserable because he's not focused on the game. He's not doing anything, and he can't just sit there quietly, right? So he really wants to be moving and doing something and working towards a goal. And it's actually a really good life lesson, because I think that we feel the same way. I know I do, when I have unstructured time and I just don't really know how to use it. And so it's an important lesson that when you see the character kind of getting bored and scraping around and wondering what to do next. So I want to give you some practical ideas about how I actually apply this in my own life. So one thing that I do to manage my time is I just keep track of how I use my time. And so, for example, if I'm playing a video game or going in the morning to do my morning routine, or if I'm going to work, or if I'm going to a 12-step meeting, or going to visit a friend, no matter what the activity is, I keep an electronic calendar, or you could do this on a paper calendar, and I just draw a line. I mean, you don't draw a line on an electronic calendar, but I just create an event in the calendar that shows from exactly this time to exactly this time I was doing this activity and only this activity. And I find that this is a really helpful habit. I got into doing that when I was in graduate school, and I needed to structure my own time to get my dissertation completed and to be able to just focus on a task. And when you do that and you actually create a log of how you use your time, then it really does help you to just focus and to release yourself into that activity. And this is different from scheduling things, right? So you might have a plan on your calendar, and this is different from what your plan is. What I'm talking about is just keeping track of exactly what you do, right? So, for example, if you spend a whole day and you just waste the whole day doing nothing, you sit around, whatever the case might be, then put that on your calendar, right? So make a mark if it's a paper calendar, or create an event in an electronic calendar and say from 7:05 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. and then you put in the event exactly what you did. And ideally, it's just one activity at a time. So sometimes I'll put like multiple things in one event. For example, like I have my work schedule, the time I'm at work, I keep track of that. And if I get there early or leave late, then I'll adjust the time in my calendar to show exactly what I did, so that I have a record for myself of what I did. And this whole experience and process of doing it this way kind of makes your life feel a little bit more like a game, because kind of what you're saying is, okay, well, this was my plan, but this is what I actually did. And so in my opinion, a calendar that tracks exactly how you use your time is much more important than a calendar that marks what you intended to do, right? And that way you release yourself from any kind of sense of guilt or obligation. Oh, I meant to do this, but I did this instead. So time tracking is what that's called. So track your time. And that's a really effective way to make your life, to gamify your life, and to make it feel more like a game and playful. And for example, with video games, whenever I'm playing a video game, I put that on my calendar. So for example, every morning before work, it's kind of my reward, because I wake up at 5 a.m. for work, and I have this routine where I kind of update my calendar, and I make coffee I say my prayers first, and while I'm saying my prayers, I make the coffee, and then I update my calendar, and I do my emails, and even before that, or actually after that, I do a 20-minute meditation listening to Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And anyway, and then I go take my shower, get ready, get dressed, etc. And then after that, for 1 hour, I play video games for 1 hour, and then I drive to work, which is what I'm doing right now. So what I love about doing this is I keep track on the calendar of all those specific things I do. And if I take longer in the shower, then I adjust the time on the calendar to show what I actually did, right? To keep track of what my actual actions were. And that way there's no guilt, there's no shame. If there's like on a weekend, if I just wasted the day, I just put that on the calendar. That's what I did. That's what my body felt like it needed to do, and I did it, right? And it is what it is. And what I love about this is when you write down what you do and keep track of it on your calendar, life feels more like a game. But then also that way your inner character, so to speak, never has that feeling that the character on the video game screen has, where it's like, what am I doing? There's a game turned on and the player's not playing, and this is like really boring right now. And I know, for example, when people get depressed, sometimes they don't feel motivated to do anything. So like when I'm depressed, one thing I'll do is I'll just mark on my calendar what I did, right? So, okay, so let's think of like a worst case scenario where, so I stayed in bed until this time. So you put that on the calendar. Got up and finally made a cup of coffee and looked at YouTube for a while. And, put that on the calendar, right? So I'm depressed. I don't want to do anything. I'm doing the, most mindless, stupid, silly things. I don't look at TikTok, but I know some people do. Put that on the calendar. Put whatever you did on the calendar, right? And just mark it. And just, in a way, you're honoring it, right? Like, it might not seem like the most noble activity, but it's how you chose to use your time during that time. You only live once, and whatever you did with your time is what you did, and it's worthy of being honored, however silly or mindless it might seem. So I find it to be very effective. And when I'm at my worst, like when I was unemployed recently and I was coming off of psychedelic mushrooms and looking for work, I would sometimes work on looking for jobs, but I couldn't necessarily do that all day. There was only so much I could do in a day. So I would spend several hours a day just playing video games, playing The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. And sometimes that would be on the calendar for 6 hours. Or if I took an hour or two to look at YouTube instead, I put that on the calendar. And so what I love about this is that no matter what I am doing, if I'm wasting time, I'm doing it with some kind of intention, right? So I might be doing an activity that's not honorable, in some people's opinions, but it's what I chose to do. So I'm going to honor it by putting it on the calendar. So that's an important lesson from video games, and as I've shared in other videos, video games are really helpful with helping us to achieve our goals because they are a great reward. You know, I use it every morning as a reward for getting through that it's not grueling, but it's an early morning routine, and then I get a 1 hour reward of playing the video game. And I have to say, it's really kind of funny because on weekends, sometimes I'll play video games for several, 6 hours a day or something like that, like a lot. But the weird thing is I actually find it a lot more fun to just play for that just 1 hour on my work days when it's just a reward, and then I take off and I go to work. And I'm at a kind of a place now where actually my job feels like a game. It feels fun, and I'm helping people, and it's really serious, but it's rewarding because I'm writing reports. I'm seeing people make a difference in their lives. I work as a psychologist, so it's fun. I mean, it's actually really exciting, almost like playing a video game, because it's like when you open a chest in Zelda and there's that magical music. That's the feeling I get when I finish a report, or when I see one of my patients make some big progress in their life. So video games are very helpful with time management, with reaching our goals. The key is to keep track of the time that you do specific things. And when you're playing a video game, create like a time, just to log it on your calendar. So it's like a contained capsule of time when that's all you're doing. So there was some other thought I was gonna share, but I forgot what it was. Anyway, but yeah, so the great thing about time management is if you just start tracking how you use your time, eventually you start to just do the things that you were avoiding, right? So right now I'm kind of avoiding cleaning up my trailer. It's really messy, and so on weekends I'm not pushing myself to do it, but at least I'm tracking how I use my time. So I know that once I actually get to it, I'll be able to kind of, give myself a star, so to speak, by having it logged on my calendar. Okay, for this 15 minutes or this hour of time, I kept track of what I did. And I worked on organizing that drawer, or cleaning up this part of the room, or sorting through my clothes, or whatever the case may be. And then I always reward myself with going back to the video games, because it's just a fun, playful thing that kind of grounds me. So anyway, hope you have a beautiful day. Do something fun, and remember you are loved. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.